What's up everyone? Anthony here, Empire Music, empiremusic.com. Today's video we're taking a look at the new Fender Bassman lineup of pedals. So I had shot a different intro for this video, but once we realized it was 50 minutes long, I figured I'd kind of reshoot this and give you a possible plan of action if you needed to kind of stroll through this video in an easier fashion. So I look at all 5 pedals individually. If you want to skip right to any of those sections, feel free to use the timestamps provided or just fast forward through the timeline. You'll see what section we land on. And at the end of the video, I kind of go through a real-time exploratory look at stacking a few different sounds. So again, feel free to jump to any section that you need. I do apologize for making this one a lot longer than we normally do with our Empire Music videos here. Again, just clocking in under an hour. It was a fun video. Hope you find it informative. As always, greatly appreciate you checking out the YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the channel. Here we go. What's up everyone? Anthony here, Empire Music, empiremusic.com. Phone number at the shop, 412-343-5299. A lot of fun today. I don't get a chance to do too many pedal demos here, but Fender just launched a new line that's really geared towards bass players, so I figured why not? We can kind of run through these effects pedals here. I self-professed effects pedal junkie, love the stuff. Always in between different iterations of 1, 2, 3 different pedal boards, flipping between my favorite Fuzz and this week and next week. It's always changing. If you're into pedals, you kind of know what that is. It's like you're never just sitting still with it. So it was cool to see Fender come out with some stuff that was, geared towards us bass players. There's going to be a lot of similarities that carry over between these pedals. So I'm going to show you one here. This is the driver pedal. Actually, I'll just say this up front. There's a compressor, there's a driver, there's a fuzz pedal, delay pedal, and a reverb pedal. Now, the similarities here in the casing, they're in that like the hammer tone case style that they've come out with. Everything has 3 knobs on it and everything has 2 switches to change some variation of them. They all have soft switch too, which is nice, like silent switching, so you don't have that loud click. DC in at the top, jacks are at the top, so it's checking a lot of boxes, I think, just from like the modern pedal layout. It makes a lot of sense. One of the coolest aspects about these pedals, I think, is that they're all $120. At the time of filming this, they're $119. That's a great price for a pedal. If you're looking to get into pedals, especially as a bassist, because I get the question a lot in the shop, like, well, what's the best bass pedal? And that's like a hard thing to answer because some people like to cater towards bass-specific pedals. I get that. I don't necessarily adhere to that. I find a cool pedal and then I'll find a use for it. If it's not bass-centric, that's okay to me. I just kind of have to know what I'm getting into. But Fender's kind of taking some of the guesswork out of it. These are all geared towards the bassist, meaning in almost every case here, actually in every case, some better than others though, you retain a good amount of low end, I'm finding out of it. And that's important because our role as bassists never really changes regardless of what pedals we click on. So it's like we want to make sure that we're supportive to the rest of the band. If we're in that environment, I mean, we could play in solo situations. I myself kind of dive into some of the ambient music and the atmospheric things, anything goes there. You don't really need to worry so much about low end. We're thinking about texture. You can do a lot of that stuff with these pedals too. So they're versatile, but they come in at a really, really nice price. So if you're looking to get into pedals, you haven't done it yet as a bassist, this is a really easy way to do it. All the effects I think are pretty useful for it. Guitar players can totally use these too. They're not just bass effects. I think you could probably get some great sounds with a synth going through it, with vocals going through it, with guitars going through it, whatever you want to do. So while they are in the Bassman collection, they are a little bit bass player centric. You could use them on just about every instrument, but for all intents and purposes in this video, we're going to stick to the bass side of things, right? And if you're a pedal collector like myself, I don't want to call myself a collector, but if you're someone that amasses large clumps of pedals at any given time, these are cool too, because like they're a little bit different than things that I've played before. And it's a cheap and easy way to add a new thing into your collection. Also, I know I like to build various boards. So I'll have a board for, let's say, a standardized gig that you'd use effects on, right? So like I'd want fuzz, overdrive, compression. I like reverb a lot for specific uses. It can be kind of cool on bass. So I'll build a small board, and I might not want to have some of my favorite really atmospheric ambient pedals on those boards, even though they might do some of those sounds I want in a, rock, funk, soul, whatever setting. It's nice to have some options there to build this ancillary board that you can take to a specific type of gig, have another board you can take to other gigs, if that fits into your player profile and into the budget and things like that. So there's a lot of great things going on with these pedals. So we have a compressor. We're going to start there. And we'll talk about signal chaining too here, because we're going to go compressor into the driver, into fuzz, into the delay, into the reverb. You could mix that up. I like compressors first. I might put one at the end too, but I don't have two here. But I like compression first. I would go driver into fuzz because I want to feed that fuzz something from the driver. I want to feed that signal into the fuzz. I'm generally going to use a driver or an overdrive on a lighter setting than I would the fuzz. Just makes sense to me. You could flip that though. Totally could. And then delay into reverb. That's totally one that a lot of people would flip that. I like reverb at the end. I like to have reverb drench everything that I've kind of stacked in front of it, right? But you could totally put delay after the fact. And you could put compression on the end of it too. I don't love the way that sounds if I'm only using a single-use compressor, but that's just me. You probably don't want to put your gain staging, meaning driver and fuzz, after reverb and delay, but you can do it. Please try it. Try it. It's fine. It's not going to hurt anything, right? It's not going to blow up, right? You might find a cool effect out of it. Most of the times you're going to put that in front. So I put this in I think a pretty logical order. I also put it in an order that I would typically use it on. So clean bass. I have active electronics engaged here. Every one of these pedals has a pad switch on the side to take active basses. I actually don't have that engaged because I have this all flat. I'm not boosting or cutting anything. This is an Ultra 2 Jazz. Passive tone here. Active tone. There's really no gain jump with these, why they're awesome. Same thing. So really no need to have those pads engaged because I'm not going to boost or cut anything on this bass. I'm going to leave it. I might, if I move anything on the bass, I might just move front pickup to bridge pickup. I'm not going to talk about that because we're really talking about the pedals here, right? So that's clean. First things first, compression. We have a level. We have an amount of compression or the compression threshold, and we have a blend. So the level is the overall level of the pedal output, right? Compression threshold, it's COMP on there. That's the amount the threshold of where the compression is going to kick in. Blend is going between wet signal, the compressed signal, and dry signal from the bass. Now you have two switches on that, ratio and RLS, which is release. Inside the pedal, you have release and attack and release trim pods. Attack is how quick or slow the compression goes, applies itself to the front of the note. Release is how fast or slow it releases from the note. Ratio, that goes from 4:1 in the down position, which is where I have it, to 8:1 in the up position. Basically, that's saying more compression at 8:1. It's compressing a louder signal down further. So if you turn compression all the way up and 8:1 ratio, you have max amount of compression this is going to give. Let's check. I have this set really where I liked it, which was fast release. So in the down position on that release knob, fast release, you would go to a slow release that is trimmable internal on that. Catch all of that? So 4:1 ratio, right at a 50-50 blend, compression right at 5, so right halfway, and level, I have that just matching here, which is at 4, but that's the one that I would always be tweaking. So clean, volume might help. Then compressor, say it, I can say it, compressor on. Again, comparing off. To on. Now you'll see, if you catch me looking this way, I have a little reference screen for what I'm seeing down here. So if you catch me looking down a lot, because I'm tweaking the pedals, and if you see me looking over here, Brent sent me up with a monitor up there so I can reference it. But you can see how this light here is turning to pink when I hit hard. You can see how that's releasing. That's on fast release. Goes out really quick. I turn that release up to a slower release. Check it out, it stays on longer. Back to fast. Slow. Right? So that is how quickly that compression is getting out of the way of the dry or normal bass signal. I like a fast release, generally speaking. So if we want to turn this up, now 8:1 compression, meaning we get 8 dB above the threshold, so those are tied together. It cuts that down, it reduces it to only 1 dB of boost. Here it only takes 4:1, you go to 4 dB, it cuts it down to 1 dB of boost. Compression ratio's tricky to understand. So we're gonna crank basically max compression would be 8:1. Turn this all the way up and check it out. I'm hitting really, really hard there, and it's never getting out of control. As I start to go back to 4:1, you'll catch a little bit more. Not much with compression turned all the way up, but we start to get this down to where I had it. And this is an RMS style compressor, so it's bringing up some low volume stuff, bringing down high volume stuff. Very cool. I love that it has the light on it that lets you know, because I don't want a lot of compression when I'm playing light. It's not applying any compression there because where I have that threshold. Now, digging in, it's compressing everything at the front end of the note. And with a fast release on it. You'll see if I turn that up and I get into just even like the palm muting stuff. That's a little too much compression for me. I want that back. So compression, not the most sexy effect, but super useful. I love it. To me, it adds punch. It adds a feel. It increases the feel of an instrument. I know people complain about compression kind of taking that away, but I think when used properly, it actually, to me, increases because it increases the sensitivity of the instrument, right? So when used well, I love compression. I'm gonna leave that on for the whole rest of the demo. We're gonna move over to the bass driver, which I love this pedal. So we have blend, so we can go wet to dry, level and gain. So think about that just like an amp. Amount in, amount out, the grittier sounds you want, the higher gain you're gonna go. Slightly cleaner, although I didn't find this to be super clean. It's obviously a bass driver. Mids, you have a mid cut point at 500 or 400, depending on where you want those mids to cut out at. So depending on how you want to blend in with the band. And then the voice, you have an aggressive kind of distortion in the up position. You have a milder tube-like warmth in the down position. Internal trim pots in that as well. That has just a high cut trim pot in there. So you could basically think of that as like a tone knob specifically for the pedal itself. So compressor is going to be on. I'm going to get that word right at one point in this video. We'll go. So we'll just call that clean for the rest of the video. With driver on. We want to experience that more aggressive distortion on there or get closer to it. Flip that voicing up. Really nice to have that at the flip of a switch. And I have gain way low on this. That was at 2. We're going to turn that, I'm going to go back down to the tube emulator there, get some more gain on it. That'll probably be cool with the pick. That voice back up, so to like the heavier amount of clipping on that. Here we go. Awesome overdrive pedal. Really, really nice overdrive pedal. Love this thing. And let's check out. Let's go back to clean for a second here. I'm going to turn some gain down. I'm going to put that voicing back to like emulating the tube. And I have the mids set, I believe, to cutting the lower amount of mids, just to keep it a little bit, or to cut, to keep the lower mids in, to give it a little extra punch. So let's check it out. Like, is the low end retaining on it? Definitely is, and that's what we want out of that pedal. You don't want to click that on thinking you're going to come in with some super crunchy distortion. It's going to bring the band up a little bit in its intensity, and all you do is like cut out, low end stuff on it. So that's the driver. I love this pedal. This is really, really cool. This is a great, at least so far to me, bass overdrive pedal. Very cool. Going to the fuzz, same thing. We have blend, we have level, and then we have the amount of fuzz. That's gonna kind of focus on sort of like the gain. Sorry, not really focus. There's a focus switch on that I'm showing there. That's why my brain went there. But that's just the amount of fuzz that's gonna go on the signal. The voicing, we have a down switch. You have like a woolier vintage kind of fuzz. Up, a little bit more modern, almost getting into distortion territory. The focus switch is a three-way. So in the up, all the way up, it's adding the fuzz to the like upper frequencies. In the mid position, it's adding it to the upper and the mids, leaving the lows alone. And in down, it's all three parts of the frequency spectrum. I notice it thinning out substantially when we get up there. That's not necessarily a bad thing. You would just want to keep that kind of in mind. So again, clean with the compressor on. In the driver, then fuzz. So we want to get a little bit heavier, more clipping, a little dirtier. And that is on that higher gain or like more modern fuzz. Going to that vintage one, did you hear what that sounds like? Back to the more modern, I guess, crunchier. I like that one more for me. Now, I'll let you hear that focus thing too, or the focus switch on that. So now that fuzz is just going on the highs, you'll notice it thinning out pretty substantially here. Be cool on guitar here, I feel like. Here's the middle position. And then here's back to that lower position where I think suits us bass players the best. One thing I did notice with the fuzz is a little bit of that lack of low end that I talked about. You don't have it out of the driver as much, really at all, I feel like. You go to the fuzz. And that's not that atypical out of a fuzz pedal. It's very rare. I have a few fuzz pedals at home, none of which make it on my like bass-centric board. Certainly use them on the ambient board, kind of where anything goes, but I do find the way that fuzz clipping works, even if they're adding low end back at the end of the, before the output. Fuzz, I'd rather just crank up a driver or an overdrive pedal and try and get into it that way. Earthquaker Devices makes one called the Zor that is technically a distortion, but that does it pretty well. But even in that case, I think I'd still rather use even this $120 driver where I know my low end's gonna be there, again, in a true bass player role. So moving on to delay. So here we have the time, which is the amount of time from your attack to when the speed of the delay echoes, right? Feedback is the amount of those echoes, and level is obviously the volume of those echoes. The type you go between analog in the up position to digital delay in the down position. And then you have this low switch on there. That, when it's off, is doing nothing there, I think. When you flip it up, there's a trim pot internal that you can control the highs and the lows on the delay tails. So basically, internal in the pedal, you have an EQ section that you can kind of tailor what those delay signals kind of sound like. I'm just leaving that off, and I'm not sure where that time's at. We'll figure that out together, right? And the type, I'll show you the differences on this. It's pretty slight. Let's check it out. So where I have it on the analog setting right now, everything's clean, no drive, no fuzz on. Right, so that's there. Now, if we turn that feedback up, this is going to get out of control and blow Brent's little preamp out over there. And when I'm editing this audio, it's going to be a nightmare. So we're not going to go ahead and do that. But I have that at like 8, so still pretty high. Then feedback low. See, it gets out of the way really fast then. And then time all the way up. I think this is a 1 second delay. And we could turn that feedback up a little bit. And then you go into like a really fast delay. So this is all the way on 1. It almost is like in a reverb thing there. It's like a really short, wouldn't call it a spring reverb, but kind of cool. I actually like that. That's not typically where I use delay pedals. I dig that. That's nice. And then up to like 5. Super quick slap back type of thing. I'm going to turn that up just so we can hear some separation on it. I want to let you hear the difference here on the analog to the digital setting. So that's the type knob. So it's on analog now. Analog meaning it's going to emulate like a tape delay where that sound's going to degrade as it goes. Let me turn the level on that up a little bit. So that's analog. Here's the digital. So this should be cleaner. I'm going to be honest there. Now this is a $119 pedal. I'm going to call it out as it is, and I'm picky about delays. I don't hear a big difference between analog and digital. If I was on a gig and I accidentally flipped one up, I honestly really wouldn't know the difference on it. The two things I would really like to see on this pedal, and again, it's $119 for a delay pedal, which is a great price for a delay pedal, and would totally use this pedal. I'd like to see tails on that, meaning doesn't carry over, right? So it's just off. I'd like to see it when you turn it off, those tails continue. That would be awesome. And maybe, this is asking a lot out of 120 bucks, some other type of subdivision, then I guess that would just be like quarter note subdivision on that. It'd be cool to see like a eighth note, dotted eighth note, whatever. That's asking a lot out of something like that though. So again, cool pedal. Reminds me a lot of, these last two pedals actually really remind me of some of those larger box Fender pedals that came out 3 or 4 years ago. It was like the marine layer reverb, and I think it was the reflecting pool delay. Makes me wonder if they didn't take some of that circuitry that they could fit in those hammer tone enclosures and just use that. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Those were cool pedals. I think especially the reverb, that marine layer reverb was awesome, awesome pedal. And this really reminds me of it. So jumping into that, into the reverb. Time, it's the amount of, that's how long the time's gonna be there. Low cut, you're cutting out low frequency, or, you know, is it, how much low frequency is retained in that, in the reverb. And then level is obviously the amount of reverb. Type, you go between a room and a hall. So a room is a little bit shorter. Hall is gonna be obviously more vast. Pre-delay, when you flip that on, you engage some level of pre-delay, meaning there's a time between when you attack the note and the delay kicks in. That can kind of create a cool effect. That is controllable by one of those internal trim pots. The other internal trim pot will control the damping. Damping, I like to think of that as just a tone control for a reverb signal. So it's like muffling, or again, it's tone of just the reverb signal. I'm gonna click this on, so we're clean. I have it on the room setting. Everything kind of at, I have the time, actually I have the time way, time up at around 8. Everything else is right around 5. I like playing short notes a lot of times just to demonstrate pedals, because it lets you hear what's there after your attack. I probably slap more in this video than anything else, because that just is a very, very quick staccato way to get out of the way of the effect. But obviously, this is just me. We'll play some longer stuff. And then go into that longer, so we'll get into the hall reverb. Play another kind of short note here. And then into the shorter. Pretty big difference there as far as the length of that delay on it. I love reverb on bass. I think it's such an interesting pedal to have on there. If you take a solo, it's great to have it. If you get to a open-ended section of a tune, maybe like a little vamp, a little jam section, it's cool to have that. You can kind of create a little bit of rhythmic chaos with it, because you start to, if you're playing it makes it less staccato, more legato kind of playing in there, even if you're playing staccato. And that can be a cool way to have some really nice tension and release. That's something I've used for a long, long time on gigs, especially like, you're nearing the end of someone else's, like a guitar player solo, and the band's building. We have some dissonance in there. We have a little bit of chaos. You kind of add to it, because if you're grooving, let's say you're grooving on something. Then you click on reverb. Especially a longer one. You get right back into that. It can be a cool effect. That's a bad example because I don't have the band around me to show it, but I love doing that. Let's stack some stuff on there and see what we can kind of build. I'm not going to go too crazy and moving some sounds around here. I kind of like where I have these. Go driver into delay. A little more delay. I say I'm not going to move knobs, and I immediately start moving knobs. Fast. Put a little reverb on the end. Pretty cool. Fuzz. Keep going back to the driver though. It really, really is something. I really like that. Special. That's a special pedal at 120. Flip that up to something a little bit more aggressive. Grab a little more gain out of it. Reverb off. Go back to that bridge pickup. That real short delay again was kind of cool. Might be cool to put some gain, low gain off the driver. Yeah, that's cool. let's just see what we can get with the fuzz. Turn that down a little bit. On the highs. That's a pretty cool sound right there. So, and again, in the most useful way ever, just that compressor, wide open jazz bass. Really like that, super useful. And also I think other tone I really love, just a straight up driver, low gain, almost using it, really emulating that Bassman amp, hitting those tubes. Oh, compressor on. Just adding a little bit of grit onto the tone. So, and this is a longer video than normal, but we went over 5 pedals. We explored in real time, getting some sounds. They're really nice. They're $119, every one of those. You could build, they could be their own pedal board. All 5 of these on a board could be a really, really solid pedal board for just about any player. Also, a really good starting point for people looking to get into pedals. If we're just looking to add some new tones at an affordable price, really can't go wrong with them. Very cool. High marks from me, pedal enthusiast, pedal junkie myself. I would totally add these, specifically the driver. I think I'd probably end up using this reverb a lot too. I really, really like these two. If I didn't already love a compressor that I have, I would easily, if I was looking to get into bass compression, that'd be a no-brainer as well, because that's a rock solid performer at 119 bucks. All of them really are like hard to beat at that price point. So, Fender Bassman series pedals, we went through all 5 of them. We checked out the specs, we checked out some sounds. Give me a call at the shop if you have any questions, 412-343-5299. Thanks for watching.